The Theranos story, a truly unbelievable fraud story that has caught the eye of the public and media. The story has so much to it, including the intrigue around the perpetrators of the fraud, a $9 billion valuation, Silicon Valley, ex-presidents, Steve Jobs, voices, green juice, turtlenecks, blood, Walgreens, all black. It goes on and on. So you might have heard about Theranos in some way, most likely through the key actors involved, including Elizabeth Holmes, the CEO and founder of Theranos, Ramesh, quote, Sunny Balwani, the CEO of Theranos, who was also in a relationship with Elizabeth Holmes. The story of Theranos is also a story about Silicon Valley. The story takes place in Silicon Valley, home to tech startups such as Google, Meta, and Apple. Silicon Valley is in a way its own character in this story. In fact, a documentary on Theranos called Inventor, Out for Blood in Silicon Valley has Silicon Valley in the name of the documentary. It is part of the culture of Theranos and part of the culture of Silicon Valley. A term or phrase that you might have heard associated with Silicon Valley, fake it till you make it. Now, what might seem like an innocuous term or something to motivate behavior in a positive direction, in this case, took a very negative, unethical turn. But the focus on our examination of Theranos is how the employees of an organization can be complicit in fraud or unethical behavior or remain silent in this plain sight of fraud. So a question I would like to ask, do you think you would be able to speak out if fraud was being committed within your organization? So when I ask that question to participants live or virtual, do you think you would be able to speak out as a whistleblower if fraud was being committed within your organization? An overwhelming majority say, absolutely, of course, yes, I would do the right thing. But if that were true, then large frauds that have occurred, such as Enron, WorldCom, Wirecard, and Theranos, their fraud would have been exposed a lot sooner than it did because these frauds went on for quite a bit of time. There were individuals in the organization, employees, governance, that knew something was going on that was wrong. And in this course, we're going to take a look at a particular question. What are the conditions that need to be present to take away our own voices, our own ethical decision-making process away from us and silence us? Well, let's look at the conditions for which that can occur using the fraud risk triangle. I am an auditor of financial statements. The fraud risk triangle is something we use in our profession, and it contains 3 components for where fraud may be present within an organization. The first is rationalization. Can the actors within the organization, not just the perpetrators of the fraud, but those that might come to know the fraud or unethical decisions that are taking place inside the organization, can they tell themselves a story that makes unethical behavior okay? The second part, is there an incentive or bias for them to continue on making unethical choices, in this case fraud? What are the conditions that incentivize fraud within the organization? And finally, pressure. Is there pressure to keep continuing with the fraud, remain silent? And when you have all 3, rationalization, incentive, and pressure, you have the condition for where fraud and unethical decision-making can occur. This is exactly the case in Theranos and what we will discuss and analyze in this course.